From the sublime, first impressions are very positive, to the ridiculous.
This is what was giving you your two-wheel drive only on the 105.
Those of you who have been following the Land Cruiser 105 build in Africa will know that at this very moment, first part, the restoration part of the build is complete, and in fact I have now got the t-shirt and in fact got the cap as well. The guys in the workshop, they all signed my t-shirt and this really nice cap from Sneemans. Okay, so guys, I'm starting this video by thanking you for your immense effort, patience and enthusiasm. It's been fantastic. And everybody signed the t-shirt except Paul Marsh signed his name wrong. Paul Smarsh. I'm Andrew St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and then travelling to the remotest parts of the world. What I have here are the costings. Now, I'd like to present this in the following way. Yes, I was sponsored and donated parts. I was also sponsored some labour from Sneemans. Paul gave me his time. But I want to present this, not exactly what happened to me, but what might happen to you, given the lessons that we have all learnt.
Yeah, we just spoke about the whole job taking 9 days, but the little things we found on the gearbox modification, the radiator having electrical on, not the viscous, the aircon condenser was never repaired or looked at. If the previous guy kept the car standard and repaired as it should be, you could actually cut 4 days off what we spend on this car. So please send your car to someone that knows how it works and keep it standard. Toyota works. Those little guys know what they're doing.
Now, firstly, I bought the vehicle blind. That's a very, very important thing, because if I had not bought the vehicle blind, I wouldn't have bought that vehicle. I would have seen those freewheel hubs and I would have said, what's going on with the transfer box? Because if you do that, the car won't drive anywhere. What have you done with the transfer box? No, I would have figured out this car can't be driven in four-wheel drive. I would have walked away without question. Had Paul or Hubert looked at the engine, they would have said to me, it's been butchered, walk.
I think this engine compartment has been butchered.
But I didn't, I bought it blind. So which means that I had to spend a lot more time, effort and money to get it right. Had I been an ordinary chap just building a vehicle in Africa and buying it blind and hoping for the best, where would I actually be right now? Would I be crying? So what we're going to do now is I'll just go through the list of everything that's been...
Everything we fitted, basically.
Okay, let's go as fast as we can. Air cleaner, water bottle, engine mounts, clutch. These are transfer gearbox parts. And gearbox parts. Brake hoses, injectors, glow plugs. That's also gearbox. All the suspension bushes, tie rod ends, gearbox mount, brakes for the handbrake, idler pulley for the aircon. Front hubs, wheel bearings. That's the top of the CG joint. Swivel bearing, top and bottom of the swivel bearings there. Water pump, heater hoses, cooling hoses, alternator, exhaust manifold, all the belts. We've just improved that. We don't need to change that. We've just improved.
Same with the manifold. I mean, the manifold was...
It was fine, but we just improved it. That I'm going to take home for as a paperweight. Okay.
Yeah, that's
all right. That's from the center differential.
Yeah, well,
so it's supposed to fit like that, and they're supposed to. Yeah. Here we go. Anyway, brake pads, power steering pump, half shafts and CV joints. Master cylinder, that's clutch master cylinder. That's this, of course, at the back. Did we do the master cylinder, clutch master cylinder?
Normally we overhaul them with a new seal kit.
Yep.
Okay. And the same with the starter motor, you won't see it here.
Right.
That's been pulled apart, and the contacts are the main things that
right.
play. And those on yours were perfect, so we just cleaned them up, lubricated it, put it back together. That's part of the swivel, when they change the seals on the swivel housing.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's got that nice shiny ball when you
Yes.
look at the front axle.
Yes.
And there's a soft, like a felt seal that this holds with a rubber seal.
Oh, and that's been replaced.
Yeah, that's what This all
Absolutely.
comes in the kit, which is really nice because that
okay.
whole terrain tamer kit. Same with these.
Same thing.
This is all all fits
Yes.
together in that whole
Yes.
kit there.
Okay.
It's really good.
That's it.
Yep.
And of course the
Brake
springs, you can't
discs.
see them from where the camera is. Springs, brake discs. That's a lot of kit.
And, yeah, a lot of kit. Eh?
The costings here, I've done it in two separate ways. The costs, had I been to Africa to look at a vehicle, been judgmental, purchased a better vehicle, yes, for more money than I spent, but still bought a better vehicle and needed less doing on it to get it right, and the additional expense that I had to incur, and a lot of those expenses, I have to say, were not sponsored. I had to pay for them out of my own pocket. For example, all the gearbox work, all the radiator work, quite a bit of it. Okay, so I'm going to go through the spreadsheet now to explain the costs.
But then you can understand how much it takes to go through a car. These are mostly parts that would wear. I mean, you know, your belts, your hoses, bushes. That in the life of a car, you'd expect to change these. What we're trying to achieve here is a baseline on this vehicle that you can go forward knowing the basic parts that wear out have been changed or overhauled.
So right now, I've got a list of parts and everything here, but I'm not going to go through that in any detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this part from here. I'm going to look at, these are the terrain tamer parts, these are driveline parts and engine parts. Now these two columns, okay, this is parts and work and extras. Where it says extras, that means that those items were very specific to my vehicle. You see, if I had actually been to Africa and expected the vehicle, I probably wouldn't have had any of these extra costs at all. Maybe none of them. Now, some may have asked, why didn't I ask Paul to go and look at it for me? Well, very, very simple. I wanted a 105 diesel. I looked for 6 months on 3 websites, the 3 best websites in South Africa for finding used car. And I found one, this one, in 6 months. If I hadn't bought it blind, in other words, pick up the phone and say, I want it, I wouldn't have got it. And we wouldn't have done this, and I wouldn't have a vehicle. There was no choice. So here's a little word, that if you're going to get Paul, and Paul does offer this service, to build you a vehicle in Africa, what you have to do, and I'm not speaking for Paul, but this is how I see it, you have to give him the money. You have to give him the money and say, Paul, there it is, find something. Because what he'll do is he will do exactly the same as I did. He will look at all the websites, and he's got a lot more contacts because he's right there. And when he sees a vehicle, he will go look at it, buy it. If he cannot look at it, buy it, he can't look at it and phone you and say, what do you think? Because by the time you've said, yes, I'll take it, somebody else has bought it. That's the trouble. And it's the trouble with 105 diesels, and it's the trouble with troop carriers. Now, in South Africa, you cannot buy troop carriers. They no longer sell them. There was a very short window of about 2 years, 2.5 years, where they sold troop carriers in very small numbers in South Africa. So if you want a troop carrier in South Africa, or even a 105 diesel, and probably a few other models of Land Cruiser too, specific models, where you literally have to be with your money in hand, go yes, no. If it's a yes, you give him the money. Now we're going to discuss what happened. Engine to drive, these are terrain tamer parts. These figures are in Australian dollars. Multiply them by 10 to get South African rands. Okay, there they are there, and you can see terrain tamer parts, $9,800 of all the parts, of which $6,105 were either items that I replaced because I was given them by terrain tamer, or it was parts that I needed to fit because of the extraordinary condition of the 105 Land Cruiser that I bought. Here again are more figures. Labour was $2,548. Expect to spend that amount of money if you're buying a good condition Land Cruiser and you want it refurbished mechanically. I spent an extra $1,690 because of the mess that I had to deal with mine. So total labour costs here, again, $6,215 labour costs and an additional $4,300 labour costs, again because of the extraordinary circumstances we found ourselves under. So total labour costs. Now let's now have a look at the summary. This is really what matters. I paid $15,000 for the car. Okay, and down here are the figures I spent if I had bought a vehicle in good condition, not like the one I bought. I would have probably spent $31,000 in total, including the cost of the vehicle, to get where I am now. Because of the mess my vehicle was in, those are the extra fees.
Those little guys know what they're doing.
Yeah,
But it is about keeping the car actually, the one you're going to buy, really needs to be as standard as possible. The mom who's driven it to school and back.
So in other words, an extra $10,000 it would have cost me had I taken the exact risk that I took, but I wasn't sponsored everything. I would be sitting now with having spent $41,000 on with a really good Land Cruiser 105. Yes, 1998 model. Is that a good deal? That's a lot. That's a lot. If you're, what I've tried to do here is be realistic. I've tried to present things exactly as they are. But what I've got here is I've spent a lot more on this vehicle than I should have. But now here's the difference. I spent $15,000 on a vehicle that was not in good condition. If you were to purchase a 105, a newer model 105 in better condition, untouched, unchanged, in good running order with a good service history, you wouldn't pay $150,000 for it. You would probably pay $250,000 for it. And guess what? You are in exactly the same position, money-wise, $41,000. Which one would be better? My one or one that was in better condition? I think the one in better condition. The amount at the end of the day, the spend in the end of the day, is pretty much the same. What would a new Land Cruiser cost me? Realistically, the cheapest Land Cruiser station wagon in Australia at the moment costs $86,000. Okay, and $86,000 for a brand new Land Cruiser. So you're talking a little under half for a 20-year-old one. You can now decide from that whether, how are we doing? Is it worth buying a new one? In South Africa, the new Land Cruiser is not $86,000, but it's $1.2 million. That's what it costs in South Africa for a brand new station wagon. Land Cruiser, that's the 200. So now it's obviously ridiculous. But what could you get for 410,000 rands in Africa? You could get a pretty good 76 series with 100,000, good condition. Yes, you could. So now here's the thing. I have spent $41,000 buying a vehicle like this and rebuilding it. Or I could buy a newer vehicle, not the 105. The 105 is, to me, far nicer than the 76. By a long, long way. That's just me, okay? The 76 is fantastic. You can get it there with the same engine. You can also get it with a V8 there, but they're a lot more expensive. So let's compare the 105 with the 76 in Africa. You can get one of those for about 450 with 150 to 200,000 kilometers on it. Better condition than what I've got here? Sure, it's much newer. So is it worth spending $41,000 on a 105 Land Cruiser in South Africa? You decide. You decide. I'm very pleased with where I am now, because I realized that actually I would prefer a 105 than a 76. Did I get lucky? No, not with the vehicle buy. Did I get lucky with the expertise? No question about it. Either way, I mean, because of the expertise, I should say, I've got a very, very well built, and this is a reliable vehicle. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we've been through and what you could possibly do if you wanted to build your own Land Cruiser and leave it in Africa and explore Africa at will. And that's what Paul does as his specialty business. The Schlucht is also known for its dust. In some countries they call it bull dust.
You just come across the oasis, and actually it's quite important that you understand that this water is very valuable to the locals around. The last thing we want to do is get in here with our soap suds and contaminate the water.
Fantastic. Oh, you're taking it around that way, are you?
Yeah, very funny.
Coffee's about here somewhere.
He builds overland vehicles for people in Africa, and so contact him and say, what can you do for me? What is available? And he will answer all the questions for you. Everything is sorted. He's got dozens of clients that do that with him. So he's the guy in Africa. You want to do that in Australia? I'm the guy. I do that here in Western Australia. I build vehicles under my company, Autograph Overland. I build them here in Australia, and those customers, I'm actually building some right now, some stunning Land Cruiser troop carriers right now, here in Australia, and people come and they buy the vehicle and they leave them here, and they come once a year to explore this amazing country. It's exactly the same in Africa, but Paul does that. From now, the videos go to basically the summary of the whole thing. I've got a nice tent, I've got a lovely awning, I've got a kitchen system in the back, courtesy of Quick Pitch.
I'm still pretty pleased with it though. I really am, very pleased. And my only disappointment right now is that tomorrow I go back home to my home in Perth and I have to leave it here. It's being stored in Pretoria. Now you can't borrow it, and it'll be parked. And when I come back in July,
to do the electrical installation and completing the camper installation in the Land Cruiser, I will be in Cape Town, and I'm then heading up to Zambia, where I'll be meeting up with Gwyn, and we'll be going to Zambia and Malawi 2020. But I'll see you in the next video when we put on all the tents and stuff. See you then. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, subscribe. Why not? If you enjoyed the video, click the little red button. Thank you.